What's up? Welcome in on this hump day, October 22nd, 2025, right in the middle of a sports equinox month. And man, do we have a shit ton of stuff we can talk about tonight. And we're going to try and get to as much of it as we can. Programming note right off the top, this will be the last show for this week. And then we'll be back in our normal time slots as for next week. So that means we got a lot of shit to talk about tonight. TJ will be joining us here hopefully in a little bit. He's got some stuff that has come up, so we'll get him in here as soon as we can. But as always, I think you have only missed one show, if I remember correctly. Vegas Smack. What's going on, my brother?
Not much, man. I gotta tell you, a little side note here. What a beautiful way to start my day. I had a gorgeous sunrise and then a beautiful rainbow that came up this morning. It just made my day. I just thought I wanted to share. My day was full of sunrises and rainbows.
All right. I'm not really sure where to follow that one with, but congrats, Unicorn. Plenty of stuff to talk about on tonight's program. If you're watching along, comment along. There is no shortage of anything to talk about in the sports world right now. We've got the rest of the NBA in action tonight. What a fantastic opening night for the NBA. I don't think you could have returned to Peacock NBC any better than the NBA did after a 23-year absence from the network. NBC, that was. Peacock wasn't a thing back in the day. And then a double overtime game right off the freaking top. Warriors-Lakers was fantastic. We'll talk a little bit about the new nickname that's cruising the streets, if you will, for the Golden State Warriors, the Olden State Warriors. Ooh. Say what you want, but they punched the Lakers right in the freaking chops last night. And, I think, Mac, not to get off on a basketball tangent, because this totally wasn't planned, Steph Curry had an interesting quote at the end of the evening last night. And he said, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then you saw it tonight. Our organized chaos took over. And that makes us a really, really dangerous team. I think this Warriors team, I get it. The age thing, the health and the age and the miles on the body and this, that, and the other thing. It'll be interesting to see if it works. But if it does, that's a damn good basketball team. If they play like they did last night and the contributions that they got, Brandon Pajemski just keeps continuing to grow as a player. Will Richard from the defending national champion Florida Gators. Absolutely fantastic rotational piece for him last night. That Warriors team looked pretty damn good for one game.
Well, remember, now you've got a whole offseason, preseason with some of these new players that they have that they didn't have. So that to throw into the mix, Al Horford coming in is going to give them some depth as well. So, the Warriors weren't a bad team last year. They just didn't have enough to get, over the hump that they needed. So, again, I think with basketball, more so than I think a lot of sports, I think the veteran presence is pretty good because they do. If there's one sport that we know, as far as load management and resting guys and keeping them healthy for the playoffs, it's basketball. So I really don't think age is going to be a problem. Horford's been pretty good from an injury standpoint. He hasn't been injured all that much. So
no. You would have gotten a kick out of this last night. I know you were watching the Mammoth because you tweeted about it. Marcus Smart pulls down Steph Curry basically by his shoulder to the floor, and Al Horford is yelling at Marcus Smart for a cheap shot. It was just kind of like that, those little subtle things you see within a game. It was kind of interesting to see. Speaking of former Celtics, as I have the Knicks and the Cavs on in the studio here on the other tube, and interesting game here. Here we are, one game into a new season, Mac, with a wide open NBA Eastern Conference, and within the first 7 minutes of the game, Karl Anthony Towns is in foul trouble. So, new coach, new way of doing things in New York. Some things haven't changed, at least so far. This East, I think, is going to be compelling television all year long.
Yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know who to put my finger on for this Eastern Division. There's a lot of teams. I can't wait till we get a good week or so under our belt. We can kind of watch some teams, watch them play, and kind of start to get a good feel. But you're 100% correct. I really don't know what or who is going to come out of the East Um, the team we saw last year that surprised everybody was the Pistons. So I kind of have my eye. I want to see if the Pistons are going to be any better this year. Of course, Cleveland had a great year and kind of flamed out. So we'll have to wait and see who will be that surprise team for us. Maybe the Magic. Who knows?
I'm going to throw one out here for you in the East, assuming positive health. As I watch one of their former guards check into the game for the Cavaliers. The Pistons that you mentioned are getting absolutely blasted by the
Yes.
Bulls right now to start the second quarter. The Bulls,
Mm-hmm.
and we've talked about the Bulls a lot over the last couple of years. What is their direction? What are they trying to do? They were a team that was very curious about Jonathan Kuminga in the offseason. I think the Warriors asked for the moon and were not given that, and rightfully so on both sides. I think the Bulls healthy could be an interesting team to watch. Obviously, what do we get out of Philadelphia? What do we get out of Boston? I think, personally, I think I could see a situation where Philly and Boston both get into the playoffs through the play-in tournament, whether they're even remotely close to what we expect out of Boston and Indiana is what I meant to say. I think I said Philly.
Yeah.
Philly, I don't trust them as far as I could throw them. But Boston and Indiana, I could see these two teams figuring out how to play ball with what's on the court now and kind of gelling in that and maybe finding their way into the postseason. But I think outside of, let's call a spade here, the Washington Wizards, I think outside of the Wizards in the East, I could see any combination of these teams making the postseason.
Yeah, it's going to be, of course, right off the bat, a lot of injuries, to key players that make that kind of bring some of these teams down. Of course, Indiana and Boston would probably be favorites in the East if they were 100% healthy. And so we have that to consider as well. So this is the year you can say what you want. This is the year where some team is going to probably have a chance to win the East that maybe they wouldn't have a chance, and that might be a good thing for them. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I haven't partaken in an NBA game yet this year, and maybe tonight's the night.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Also, speaking of two teams that we don't have any idea what the hell we're going to see out of them, the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings clashing tonight here in the desert.
Oh.
And what would a Suns season be if it didn't start with a little bit of what the hell kind of controversy? Suns and Mercury minority owners dismiss lawsuit, still intend to take Matt Ishbia to court. And I was like, are we doing this shit again with the Suns? Andy Kohlberg and Scott Selden, two Phoenix Suns and Mercury minority owners who sued Matt Ishbia, the majority owner of the Suns and Mercury, and the organization in August. They dismissed their lawsuit in Delaware Friday. The lawsuit in which their attorney says mismanagement is the claim by Ishbia. These are the only two holdovers from Robert Sarver, and we all know how that disaster went down, his ownership group. And they sued to get access to the organization's books and accused Ishbia of a lack of transparency after he made a capital call and initiated a fundraising round with the Suns ownership group this past summer. So for a team that is stripped of assets to build the program, and their only option from this point forward is to develop within their organization and move forward. Now we're got other stuff like this. The Sacramento Kings, another interesting. I think both of these teams could either be halfway decent or both of these teams could actually implode right before our eyes. More so in the Sacramento situation, basically the Western Conference Bulls, because that's what they turned themselves into. That's another organization that has no effing clue what they're doing right now.
Yeah. I don't know if in a national look that people understand what the Suns mean to Arizona, what they mean to Phoenix. They are the heartbeat. They are the darling of Arizona. It's not the Cardinals or the D-backs or anything else. It's the Phoenix Suns. They are the baby. They are the one that good or bad, that's what kind of I really think sets the tone for the entire sports season. It's how the Suns do, and just to see, like you said, over the last couple of years, they haven't played well. There's been just stuff on the court, off the court. You know, it seems like a new head coach every 3 or 4 years. Last three
Mhm.
or 4 years we've had, it's just been a huge debacle. So I hope for the Suns' sake that they can get things just cleaned up, because when the Suns are good, we all know that it's a beast in there. That's I don't. It's a tough place to play.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. New head coach Jordan Ott, obviously gone are Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, who we saw last
Thank
night with the
goodness.
Rockets. In comes Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. So it'll be interesting to see how this Suns team, who I think is going to fly under the radar for the most part, decides to kind of handle their business. Some other news and notes that we're passing around here before we dive into the nuts and bolts of tonight's program. Emmanuel Clase of the Guardians wants to pitch in Venezuela while under
Hmm.
investigations. The Guardians say no. Good move or bad move, Mac?
Oh man. Uh,
I don't think this dude pitches in the big leagues ever
I
again.
I don't. I was gonna say I don't think he pitches in the big leagues again. I don't know why they wouldn't want him to pitch just in case he does come back. I mean, he basically missed the last half of the season. You want him to pitch, so if he does come back, he's at least got those innings underneath him. So I mean, I don't get it. I mean, one of two things. Obviously, he's either not going to pitch again, so why do they care?
Right.
Or he's gonna come. He's gonna come back, and you want him to still have the that sharpness there. So I don't understand that. I don't get that unless there's always. I always look back to, is there something in his contract or clause that they could be worried about if he is pitching out there? But I don't see why that would be a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. In a little bit, Toronto being in the World Series is good news for the Buffalo Bills. I also have made my official prediction for the NBA Finals, and we've got some baseball to talk about. We've got some hockey
Yeah.
to talk about. The San Francisco Giants, as you teased and alluded to a couple of weeks ago, and I told you to shut your mouth so you didn't jinx it. Buster got his guy, Tony Vitello, the head coach, formerly the head coach of the University of
Hmm.
Tennessee baseball program, was officially announced by the Giants today as their 40th field manager in club history. An unprecedented move. Nobody's ever made the jump straight from college to the big leagues in a managerial position like that, and it's going to be really interesting. 341 and 131 was the record for Vitello as a head coach at Tennessee. When he got to Tennessee, Tennessee was just an embarrassment of a program. He was an assistant coach at Missouri. That's going to come up when I tell you who in the World Series is going to pitch for the Giants next year. He was an assistant coach at Missouri, TCU, and Arkansas. So an interesting move by the Giants here, and a process that Buster Posey kind of started with Tony Vitello 2 months ago when the Giants were in Colorado, as was Vitello, to see a couple of his former players who were playing on each team. So the Giants get their guy, Kurt Suzuki, and Skip Schumacher. Those are the only managerial fillings that we have. Interesting on Suzuki, he only got 1 year. Good move or bad move, do you think, by the Giants to go after Tony Vitello?
I think it's a great move. I mean, I really do. Again, we don't. The college game obviously is a whole lot different than the professional game. But listen, the guy knows the game of baseball. We know that. That's an absolute. We know that. He's going to bring a huge energy. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder, which is I think is going to be something that. Let's be honest. I think the Giants needed. They really do. I really think this is going to be good for the Giants. Um, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how he constructs his staff. If
Mm-hmm.
he has a staff of these are my guys, or if he's going to go out and get some proven major league uh, ex players and bring them along to kind of help, because there is still that transition, and we've seen it with some of the other sports where college coaches come in and this is how they do it, but this is a professional sport, so it's got to be done a little bit different. So that's my next thing. I think from a baseball standpoint, I think this is an A+ move. I just want to see what he's going to do with his staff. I think that's the next piece that's going to be very important for the Giants.
Yeah, interesting stuff here, and this comes from a report on ESPN from Jeff Passan and Pete Thamel here. In an interview with ESPN in June, Vitello said his reputation as a rabble-rouser did not bother him, and he had no plans to change his approach to coaching, which called for pushing boundaries. Vitello said, I think you don't know where the line is until you cross it, and then you make an adjustment. I don't want our guys, if they give them a coloring book, I don't want them just coloring inside the lines, come up with something different. And I think you said it perfectly. This is an organization in San Francisco that is the only team in the Bay Area, and they have massively developed the area around the ballpark. The Giants are going to be getting an influx of money here. I think you can take a chance on a guy like this in Vitello's position, because you have what do they need in San Francisco? They need a right fielder. We're pretty sure they have their first baseman. They need some pitching help. Their lineup is pretty much set. You've got a lineup with Jung-Hoo Lee, Willie Adames, Rafael Devers, Matt Chapman, Bryce Eldridge, who I'm pretty sure is going to be on the opening day roster. You need a catcher that could hit his way out of 10 wet paper bags maybe, but outside of that, I think you can take this chance with a guy like Vitello here, and he is the proverbial kick in the balls that this organization has needed for a handful of years, and Buster got his guy.
Yeah, this is going to be really, really good for the Giants. And again, it's going to be very interesting to see how he transitions his game. I know, like you just said, he wants to think, outside the box and whatnot. It's going to be very interesting. Again, like I said, the college game's a little bit different than the pro game. You're dealing with, with grown men instead of, young men. It's going to be interesting. Like you said, it's never been done before. Which again, it was interesting. You figured it had to be done at some point, right? But like we talk about, it's not as linear as it is with basketball and in football. A lot of these guys, very rarely do you see a kid make a jump from college to professional. So this is going to be an interesting thing. And like I said, this may open up a whole nother can now. This may be like, if this is successful, who's the next college coach that, could potentially become a professional coach. This may be a whole new avenue that the Giants open up for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a comp on Vitello, I think the only comp you can actually make right now is Pat Murphy in Milwaukee. And, Murph didn't make the jump from Arizona State to the big leagues as a manager. He went through the ranks, but I think that's the closest comp that you have. So it'll be interesting to see some of these other jobs that are still open, how they get filled over the next couple of weeks. Kazuma Okamoto, a corner infielder with 248 home runs in the Nippon Professional Baseball Central League, will be posted for an MLB team to sign this offseason. He and his Yomiuri Giants announced at a news conference on Wednesday. 29-year-old is an 11-year veteran of the NPB, a right-handed batter, career slash line of 277, 361, and 521. I hate to break it to everybody, but he's going to sign with the Dodgers. I know that's shocking news to everybody out there. A couple of other trendy things here. Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are in a pissing contest with each other. Horrible look for both guys. Just shut up and move on with life.
Let it go.
And finally, the debate right now in college football. I think it's kind of interesting. We talk about brands and big brands and who's good for sports when they're good and all that a lot. James Franklin was fired by Penn State 2 weeks ago. Billy Napier fired by Florida, in the most recent form here. The pissing contest that's going on right now in debate in college football between which is a better job, Florida or Ole Miss, I think is absolutely fascinating because obviously the name at the top of the list is Lane Kiffin for Florida. Can they get him to leave Oxford? Other names that have come up, Eli Drinkwitz, the coach at Mizzou. Jeff Brom's name has been floated out there. I don't see him leaving. Brent Key, I don't see him leaving. And if you're Florida, we heard all the jokes when they hired Billy Napier. Sun Belt Billy, blue chip Billy, all the jokes. Florida's not going. Alex Golesh is another guy who gets thrown out there. I'm going to tell you right now, Florida's not going to go and hire like the next big thing. They're not going to go to a small school and bring a guy up. This is going to be a big splash hire because they have to. What I would ask you, what's a better job if you were really analyzing it? Ole Miss or Florida? Because I don't think there's even close to a debate here.
No, I don't either. Listen, there's a couple of places in the United States that are really good for football.
He's free to work for anybody now, Mama Mac.
And obviously the state of Florida is one of those. If you can win a recruiting war in the state of Florida, you're getting on a yearly basis some really, really good players. The facilities are great. I mean, we all know in the day, nobody ever wanted to go down and play in Florida. I mean, at the beginning of the season, it's an absolute, bloodbath down there. I mean, it's hot, it's humid, it's miserable to go down there. The history of the Florida Gators with their coaches that they've had, with the players that they've had, there is just no doubt. We talk about brand, you talk about where you're going to go. If I was a coach and I was looking at these two schools and I had the option, Florida would be 1A, 1B, and 1C before I would even consider Ole Miss. I don't even think it's close. Not at all.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's close either. When you look at the size of the school's enrollment and the stadium and one of Lane Kiffin's supposed kind of irritants at Ole Miss has been kind of dead crowds at times, and Florida's been through a really, really kind of low point here in their expectation and where they want to be every year, and they're still selling out games on the regular. That's just what it is, and that's one of those things that Lane's not getting right now at Ole Miss. And here's another thing that'll back what I'm saying here. Why was that hard to say? Think about this. The last four head coaches at Florida: Billy Napier, Dan Mullen, Jim McElwain, Will Muschamp. They've all had two of three things in common. All four of them bad offensive coordinators. All two of the four of them were terrible recruiters or didn't want to recruit. Gee, who am I talking about? Las Vegas, Dan.
Las Vegas.
And then the other two guys, Muschamp and Napier, had shitty offensive lines. So this is, again, why Florida's not going to go. Florida's going to go somewhere, and I think they're going to go somewhere with an offensive mind and bring in an offensive-minded head coach here. Gator fans can be a little at ease if you trust any of this. DJ Lagway, when he was asked about the situation, said, I'm a Florida Gator. There's no other conversation to be had. That's why I think Florida knows that this has to be a big-time hire. But, the constant sellouts, the size of the school, the size of the state, your access to so many, like you said, so many great recruits that are a simple drive away, the talent pool. There is no debate. And if you were debating yourself out there right now, if Ole Miss is a better job than Florida, you are absolutely insane.
Yeah, no, I mean, without a doubt. And you said it numerous times on this show. For Florida, this is a huge opportunity. This is, not a make or break of the program, but this really, really is. They've got to make sure that they get this one right, or they can't afford another 2 or 3 years of not being a competitive football team. They just can't. And in this day and age of college football, we all know you get the right coach with NIL deals. You can turn 2-8 into 10-1 very easily.
Should be absolutely friggin' paranoid right now. If the Gators finally get the Visor 2.0, Georgia.
Oh, Georgia.
Because they have to deal with Lane Kiffin every single year. That would be absolute theater.
So I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Is it going to happen?
I think if there was ever a time it was going to happen, it's now. And if you watch the E60 documentary that they did on Lane Kiffin. He talked about where he was just in his life as a whole when he got to Oxford. And I think Lane needed Oxford as bad as Oxford needed Lane at that time. One of the other things he did say in there is how quiet and how just, he didn't say the term dead, but Oxford is just it's a chill. The Grove in Oxford, if you've never done it for a college football like fan experience, you have to go to a game there, tailgate your way through the Grove, even if you just walk through the Grove and check it out. It's a great college town, as is Gainesville. But there's still no comparison. So I think if there was ever a time that I did go there briefly, but if there was ever a time they were going to get Lane, it's now. And if they don't get him now, it's never going to happen. Do I love the idea of Eli Drinkwitz if they can't get Lane? I don't know. I'm still kind of, I'm a U there. I'm a Switzerland. I'm on the fence.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
We'll see what happens. We got a World Series to talk about, my man.
All right. Yeah.
We are less than 72 hours away now from America's team, the Toronto Blue Jays, taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And this one's going to be interesting, Mac, because it is entirely a strength-on-strength matchup. I'm not going to make my official pick tonight. That'll come out on our social channels on Friday. I know you're going to, but a couple of things to pass along here to set the scene, if we will, in the sixth. The last 5 times we've seen a team sweep the championship series while awaiting a 7-game winner or a 7-game series winner from the other championship series. The team that went to 7 games has won all of the previous 4 matchups. That was the 1988 Dodgers. They beat the A's 4-1. The 2006 Cardinals beat the Tigers 4-1. The 2007 Red Sox, that I know you remember very well, they swept the Rockies after the Rockies swept the NLCS. The Giants swept the Tigers in 2012. Obviously, that stat would favor the Toronto Blue Jays in this series. First thoughts. I think this is the matchup that a lot of us actually did want to see when it was all put together and we knew who was going to be in the party.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at it, from a statistical standpoint, these were 2 of the better teams. I mean, when we break down baseball, the one division, what we always talk about is the American League East. So if you come out of the American League East, you know that you've cut your teeth for that year. So the Toronto Blue Jays, finally get over a couple of humps. They win the East. Great job for them. And the Dodgers have just been the Dodgers. They've done what they've set out to do the last 3 or 4 years, and they're playing in the World Series. That's what the Dodgers do. That's the new brand of baseball. So, this is exciting. I mean, a lot of people don't remember the last time Toronto's been in the World Series. That is not an easy place to play. I remember when the Blue Jays had those teams with Carter and with Henderson and Joe and all the pitching they had, Morris. I mean, that place absolutely rocks the Rogers Center. I mean, it's going to be a fun series. And being up in Toronto, I think, again, like you said, Toronto playing in that 7-game series, I think gives them a slight advantage. These guys are creatures of habit. Baseball players are creatures of habit, and they've been habit since February. And this little time off for the Dodgers, we'll see what happens because they've been pitching so good. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with their pitching.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's a strength-on-strength matchup here. The Blue Jays' explosive offense and the Dodgers' dominant pitching down the stretch. And, we all poked fun and watched along and observed during the season on the Dodgers because they signed a bunch of injured pitchers or pitchers that have a history of constantly being injured. And the goal for the Dodgers was simple. Make sure by about mid-July, beginning of August, all these guys were healthy and we could go into every freaking game basically setting up 2 starters. If we wanted to go 3-man rotation, as the series get longer, we can go 4, and we still have those 2 starters to fill in the blanks. Bills fans, I told you I had good news for you. 2 things here today. Josh Allen, in a little post-practice press conference, said he talked to his grandma this week, and grandma said all she wants to do is see him smile. When grandma talks, you friggin' listen. Here's the other part and how it pertains to the World Series. October 1992, the Blue Jays go to the World Series. the Buffalo Bills went to the Super Bowl. October 1993, the Blue Jays go to the World Series. The Buffalo Bills went to the Super Bowl. So if you're looking for a silver lining there in your kind of neighborly partner, there you go,
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills fans. I think the series is going to be fascinating because I think there's a lot of times that we get, hey, both these teams are good at pitching, both these teams are good at hitting. I'm not really sure which way to go. Yeah, I think there's no debate here, and I think that's what makes this series so interesting to me is the fact that you know we've got a great offense and great pitching, and they always say, great pitching beats great hitting. Well, we're gonna like literally get to figure that out here, and I think that's what makes this so exciting to me.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a couple of things. That,
That's uncalled for.
I know. There's a couple of things that we need to look at. We talk about long layoffs. Well, Bo Bichette, if he's going to be a go,
Hmm.
he's had quite a layoff. And again, remember, there's been no. I'm sure he's been hitting and maybe throwing it against pitchers. I'm sure that they've had something that he's been doing, whether it's down in Florida or whatnot. But still, live live pitching at this level, it's still going to be adjustment because he's been out for a couple of months. So that'll be an interesting thing to see. I think the managerial matchup is quite interesting.
Yes.
Dave Roberts gets a lot of crap. He really does.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of it is because of the team that he has. But he does make a lot of interesting moves sometimes, and so this is going to be an interesting scenario to see what happens with this Toronto team because even though Toronto likes to bash, I've watched them enough. They're not afraid to bunt. They're not afraid to do a couple of things to move runners along. So it's going to be very very interesting to see what happens. So. Yeah, I mean, this Blue Jay team, you're going to get introduced to a lot of people, Barger, Varsho, Clement, guys, and even Christian Kirk. I love him as a catcher. He's one of those. He looks like he belongs in the Sandlot, is what I think. He looks like he belongs in the Sandlot as a catcher.
You
This
just
is
called
a.
him Christian Kirk. I would love to see
Did I
Christian
say?
Kirk
Did I say
catch.
Christian Kirk? Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, it's football
Sorry.
season. I get it.
Yeah, I know. But listen, this is a fun Toronto Blue Jay team, and
Hmm.
I thought they were going to get to the World Series last year. I picked them
You
last
did.
year to get to the World Series. I picked them again this year to get to the World Series. I've been really high on this Blue Jay team for a couple of years now.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how they lay out their pitchers in this series. Dave Roberts has already done so. Blake Snell will go in game one. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will go in game two. And then Glass now, it looks like right now will go in game three. I don't think they've gone that far. Toronto hasn't really said much of anything, but I think
And
we've got kind of a guess, I think, in which way Schneider's going to go with that one.
yeah, and I wanted to bring up one other guy that people probably don't know, and not too many people knew about this guy at the beginning of the year for Toronto, and that's Trey Yasavage. You want to know why we didn't know about him? You know where he started the season? In
He's
Single A.
played ping pong everywhere in the minors.
He this year he's pitched Single A, High A, Double A, Triple A, the ALDS, the ALCS, and now he's going to pitch in the World Series. That's quite a career. Never mind a season. And he's
Yeah.
been great. He's been absolutely. I think if you're looking at somebody who could swing the series, I think he's a pitcher that could swing the series for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's got to be the call in game one. Again, I don't have it out. I'm not saying it's not out. It's just I don't have it right now. I would venture to guess he's going to go with you Savage in game one.
And I like that because listen, here's the other thing. You don't have a lot on this guy. In
Hmm.
the days of day of analytics now, this is not a guy that you have a lot on. You only have a couple of starts that we've seen. So this is going to be interesting. I do hope he goes game one. I hope he does because that'll be a good test right off the bat to see number one how he handles it, but and that's what we have to look in game one. What you're looking for, guys, is how do the pitchers attack certain hitters? How do they attack, Mookie Betts? How do they attack Freeman? How does everybody attack Vlad Guerrero? How do they attack, Bichette if he plays and his comeback? That's what you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for. Are they starting these guys with fastballs in? Are they not throwing in fastballs? Are they throwing breaking pitches? That's what game one is all about. Game one, it's just like a heavyweight boxing match. The first 3 rounds, nobody does a whole lot. You just kind of feeling each other out. But that's the game inside a game. That's what I like about it, is because I'm watching the pitchers are going, oh wow, look, he threw him a changeup there. That was an interesting pitch selection. So that's for me, the baseball geek. That's what I love.
Yeah, and it's going to. I'm very interested to see how this series is received. Obviously, you got the big brand in the Dodgers there, and I think a lot of people can get behind this Toronto team, and it's coming at a good time for baseball. And again, we could give two shits what ratings are because they don't pay our paychecks. But this is an interesting thing that kind of tells you where the game is at as a whole right now, and why we desperately need to avoid a freaking work stoppage in 2 years. Throughout the League Championship Series, MLB postseason viewership averaging 4.48 million viewers in the U.S., making it the most watched postseason since 2017, an increase of 13% over last year. Game 7 of the ALCS between the Jays and the Mariners drew 15 million viewers across the United States and Canada. So I think we're going to have a lot of people obviously rooting for the Blue Jays here. I think we're going to have a lot of people tuned in. Very interested because of the 2-3-2 format. What happens? I think that gets kind of intriguing in these last 2 rounds here, is the changing of that middle format. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I think we're in for a hell of a lot of fun. I hope we get 7 because I can't see these two teams playing a lopsided game 7. I actually can't see a single game in the series becoming lopsided whatsoever.
Yeah, this is, I mean, there's so many little stories in here. Of course, this is the id for Clayton Kershaw. Who knows? Maybe also for Max Scherzer. We don't know what's going to happen. Of course, there's the Ohtani factor for the Dodgers. He's going to bring in viewers. But, we saw a little bit of it after the Blue Jays won. Vlad Guerrero, and I'm going to give that comp. He's got that big poppy in him, doesn't he? And I think people are going to really fall in love with Vlad Guerrero. I love the guy. Yeah, Red Sox have to play against him all the time, but I do. He's got one of those very infectious personalities. I think he really stepped up his game defensively and as a leader this year. I think he's the reason, not his offensive numbers, but the way I've seen him play first base. He's playing first base defensively so much better than I've seen him in the past. And he just, I've watched Toronto a lot this year, I really think he's taken a step up in leadership. And I think that's a good thing, obviously for the Blue Jays. So again, I think there's a lot of stories. The Mattingly story is kind of cool in there as well. There's just a lot of neat stories in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're looking for where the public is leaning now, this comes from The Athletic, sampling from the predicted winner across their entire newsroom. 73.1% say the Dodgers, 26.9% say the Blue Jays. Richard Deitch, I have to read this. In breaking down who and why, he says, I can't remember a team that feels more inevitable than this year's Dodgers club. The prospect of that pitching staff having a week of rest reminds me of the fear I felt the first time I heard Darth Vader breathe through his black mask. The Empire in 5 is how Richard Deitch breaks it down. Molly Keshin picks the Blue Jays, while the Dodgers absolutely dominated and showed their, quote, Death Star side in the NLCS. I don't think they're going to win 2 in a row. I think the Blue Jays have the guts to not take no for an answer. And I think those are, and there's a lot of other ones here, but I thought those were the 2 most interesting things is yes, the Dodgers do feel inevitable, and they kind of have since the beginning of the year. That's why T picked them to win the World Series. And it was like, oh, you went out on a limb with that one. Well, it was the truth, and they're here in this position. Then you have the Blue Jays on the other side that you mentioned the comp to Poppy and Vlad. I would raise you that comp and go, this team of Blue Jays players reminds me a lot of a bunch of idiots that won a World Series not that long ago. That's what I
Absolutely.
get when I see the Blue Jays.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of guys, like I said, that the people are going to watch this series and not know some of these guys on the Blue Jays, but um, it's an intimidating. It is a an empire like Snell, Yamamoto, Glass now, and then oh yeah, by the way, we're going to throw Otani as well. So I mean, yeah, it's a lot. It really is. But yeah, I'm hoping game one. Hope Toronto. I think if Toronto can steal game one, I think that's going to set a tone for the series. Like I said, the more the Dodgers play, they'll kind of get back into their groove. I think game one is key. You want to take that first, at least one of the two, and then again. Um, Toronto's going to set up, their rotation as well. I think some of their starters pitched in the last game. So we'll see. I like to see George Springer get a ring. He's a Yukon guy. Always got to root for the Yukon guys. But I like George Springer. I've always liked him. Hey, this is just it's a workman. It's a blue collar team. This Blue Jays team. They're a blue collar team.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, it's your time to go on the spot.
All right.
Who and how many games, and then we'll talk a little puck and get to some football.
All right. So I told you, I picked Toronto at the beginning of the season. When we did our predictions, I had Toronto in the World Series. I had them losing to the Milwaukee Brewers. So I'm not going to change. I'm taking the Toronto Blue Jays to win this series. If they win it, they're going to win it in 6 games. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take 6 games for them to win it. And if they're going to win it, there's only one way they're going to win it, and that's with their MVP, and that's going to be Vlad Guerrero. So I got Toronto in 6. Vlad is the MVP.
$500 million deal, and then he pulls this out in the postseason, worth every damn Canadian coin that he was
That's
paid.
right.
All right, let's talk NHL as the season is in its infancy here. We've been kind of going through division by division every Wednesday, and tonight it's time for, I think, the best division in all of hockey, the most intriguing division in all of hockey, and that is the Western Conference Central Division. 7 of the 8 teams in the division have winning records, while the 8th, Nashville, is at 500. And, it's been an interesting start as we see the standings right there, because there's some names and places that you probably didn't think they were going to jump out right away. What have you made so far in this early stage of the season, 6-7 games in? Wasn't even planning to do that.
Oh, man.
I really wasn't
go.
planning to do that, but 6 or 7 games in. What do we make of this? What's your first thoughts when you see that?
The first thing is right smack dab in the middle. Oh, wait, let's see. Billy G. What has he got? Jays and
He's got
7.
Jays and 7.
Yeah. Oh, Kirk. Yeah, MVP. I like that. Absolutely. I like that a lot. All right.
I may or may not have done that already, but I wanted to get that out so
there
we
you
don't
go.
lose it from the World Series clock. All right,
No,
go ahead.
I think there are 2 things right off the bat that stand out to me. Number one, I look right in the middle and I see Chicago has got 8 points. That's like a quarter of their total of last year's points.
Talk about
That-
smoke
that-
and mirrors.
Right. I mean, so again, we're talking 7 games, but still, that I didn't expect them to be anywhere near the middle. I think that's a shocker to me. I think the other thing that's a shocker to me is Dallas being but 3-3, and maybe this is that transitional year for the Stars. We'll have to wait and see, but not a good start for this Dallas team. But those are the 2 things when I look at this that stand out to me. Winnipeg being up there, I'm really not surprised. They had a great season last year. I think everybody soured on them, especially because they were another team. You say smoke and mirrors. I mean, they were a team that 5-on-5 they were good, but their goaltending was what saved them. And once their goaltending wasn't as good in the playoffs, and their 5-on-5 wasn't as good, this is a team that was an out in the playoffs. So, but I'm not surprised that they're up there, especially the regular season. But Chicago and Dallas, that really shocks me a little bit.
Yeah, I think the team in the 8 position and the team in the 4 position are very soon going to trade spots here. I've talked about this a lot. I talked about it in our NHL preview. I think that we're a game to 4 games, maybe 5, away from Barry Trotz being told to get his ass trotting back down to the bench, because that team has way too much talent in Nashville to play as shitty as they have over the last 89 games that they've played in. I don't think Chicago has any staying power there. I think that team might actually end up being worse than they were last year, if you can believe it or not. I am a little shocked, at least initially, early, as Billy V's talking about right here, the Mammoth.
I do.
I'm a little shocked to see them come out of the gates as well as they have. I'm interested to see if they can make a push for that last playoff spot. Also interested to see what happens in Minnesota. I think Dallas, shitty start to the season. Call it what it is. I think they'll be fine over the long haul. I'm interested to see with the deal that Kaprizov got, what happens with Minnesota. Because Minnesota's, they've gotten to the party, and then they've been asked to leave the party in the first round every damn time. And they're a team that we don't talk about playoff failures with very much, and I don't think in due form. We talked about it in college football. Why is Steve Sarkisian not get the same kind of treatment that James Franklin did? Well, with Minnesota, with the Wild specifically, I wonder the same question. Why does nobody talk about, how many times that they've bombed out in the first round of the postseason? So I'm interested to see how that massive contract that Kaprizov got and how that kind of plays its way through the season here in Minnesota. Who's a team you got in this division that you think can just totally bomb out and the bottom it can fall out of?
Well, we were just talking about it. My bomb for this is Minnesota. And here's why. I still think this is a transitional year. Yeah, they spent a lot of money, but if you look down the middle, they're light down the middle, and that's what you look at. With hockey, you got to be able to roll those 3 and 4 lines out. I still think they're a little light down the middle. I don't like their offensive depth. I still think for Minnesota, this is a transitional year. Gustafsson and goal can maybe get them to the playoffs, but I just don't think that this is. I think they're a season away still.
Yeah, my dive bomb we already talked about in Chicago. I just don't see how this team can sustain what is a great start for them by all things accounted for, like you mentioned. But there's not a lot of depth there. If you're Connor Bedard, you got to be going, what the hell is going on here? I mean, there's another place you could go, what the hell's going on here? I'll mention them briefly here in a second. But Chicago's my bomb out candidate. My dark horse is Smashville. So, without going into a ton more detail, I don't think they're going to wait very long to tell Trotz to get back down on the bench. And I think he'll get them moving in the right direction. There's too much talent there. Who is your dark horse in the Central?
I was going to say, I 100% agree with you with Nashville. But my dark horse is St. Louis, the Blues. I think this is a team. Last year after the Four Nations tournament, they really, really played great defense, and you gotta love, Jimmy Snuggerud. I mean, he is going to give them that secondary scoring that they need. They are a little old on the blue line, but listen, their top line is good as any line. In fact, their top 3 lines are as good as any team out there. Binnington does well in net. I actually really think this could be the year that the Blues not only make the playoffs but could do some damage come playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've both got the same champion here, so I'll let you go first, champion of the Central, I should say, because I think we'll have kind of a slightly different approach to it, but we both like the Avalanche, who are currently in first place, to remain in that spot basically for the entire year.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard not to. I mean, this is such an electric team. They come at you in so many different ways from an offensive standpoint. But the biggest thing is whether or not they can get the goaltending from Blackwood, if he's going to be good enough in there. But listen, you want to talk about a team, the last couple of years, playoff failure, this is their calling card right now. They've got to find a way to figure it out. I don't really think they care about the regular season. I really don't. I think for Colorado, it's about how do we get to and win the cup. That's their number one objective.
Don't think about this in literal terms here, but I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Avalanche in comparison mode. The Colorado Avalanche, to me, are the San Francisco 49ers of the NHL. The talent level is undoubtedly there. They've had a seat at the table basically every year, and
Yeah.
neither one of them has got that elusive next one. I know the 49ers have more titles than the Colorado Avalanche do, and that's why I said don't look at it in literal terms, but to me that's who they remind me of. Is a team that we know has everything that they need to. I know the one concern there is the goaltending situation, as Tony mentioned a few weeks back on our social channels at Mike Arana Show. But outside of that, and Colorado is a team that has the means and the resources to improve that goaltending position yet again within the season, like they tried to do last year.
And I have one other concern. And I saw it I don't know if it was yesterday or today. But they're doing something I can't believe that they're doing. They're bringing back, I can't even say the word, it's the Q word. They're bringing back the uniforms of that place that you know what?
Quebec.
I will be I will root for the Canadians before I root for the Nordiques.
Oh, holy shit.
Yes, it is. With me, it runs deep with that.
That's like saying you are going to go out and buy a Lamar Jackson jersey because he's back practicing now.
I will not even say that. I refer to them as the Q word. I will not even say it. It will not come out of this mouth.
The Q word. One more note from the NHL before we get into some football here. Right now at the Garden, the Knicks, who were home dogs, and I have on the money line tonight,
Nice.
are leading the Cavaliers with 3:22 left. Tomorrow night in the Garden, it is the movable force versus the stoppable object, as the San Jose Sharks and New York Rangers will take the ice against each other. Something's got to give there. Somebody can't look as horrible as they've already looked so far this season. The Sharks are tied with two other teams now for the longest winning streak or losing streaks in a season, with themselves twice. That's how bad it's gotten in San Jose. So plenty of stuff there to talk about. We've got some football to talk about. And before we get to football, we've talked about this for a couple of weeks. We've forgotten it just because the conversation got carried away. It's time to debut our ban list. The teams that we will not, or players that we will not bet on until further notice, and they are since then removed from the ban list by a member of this program. So it's early in the football seasons. We're about halfway in college football. We're still relatively early in the NFL season. We don't have a whole lot here. Interesting. I'll go with Tony's first. The Chargers. He kind of talked about it last night with the injury situation. Puberty's bitch. So that's his. Me, it's the Raiders. And I think that Pete Carroll is going to do in Las Vegas what Pete Carroll has done anywhere he's gone. And he's going to build a competitive, tough-to-beat team you don't want to play football team. Right now, they're not there. And I've tried a couple of times this year. Week 1, it was great. They went in, they beat the Patriots. Talk about two teams that have gone in completely opposite directions.
Yes.
For me, it's the Las Vegas Raiders right now. I love Pete Carroll. I really do. I may or may not have posted some lookalikes with him and Ellen DeGeneres over the years, but I love Pete Carroll. I love what he builds. I love what he's about. Hell, I hope I make it to my 70s, let alone can have his kind of energy in my 70s. I love you, Pete, but I can't bet on your team right now until further notice. Who is on your ban list at this early point in the season here?
All right. Well, I'm going to give you an add-on here at the end. But the team that I had originally on there is Jacksonville. I am done. I have officially.
Oh, so now we're off of Jacksonville.
I had Jacksonville. So I'm going to
note that, folks. That is 2 times he has jumped off of Jacksonville this year to match his 2 times that he jumped on Jacksonville.
Yes.
Stay tuned for As the Jaguar Turns with Vegas Mac.
This is like a terrible love affair. It's like a Hallmark movie. But I'm putting on. I'm done with this team, Nebraska. I'm done to anything Nebraska football. It just every time I think even remotely that this team has a chance. They throw up a stink bomb, so I'm done with Nebraska.
Fair, absolutely fair. If you have somebody that's on your ban list, comment along. Let us know who it is. Interesting here is the Knicks are actively trying to choke away what I thought was a steal. The Knicks at home against the Cavs, who have guys out. Both teams have guys out. You know, figured New York, Mike Brown's first game, and they've pretty much dominated this game other than getting their asses handed to them in the third quarter, which is why it's still a game. All right. We've got some college football to talk about, interesting stuff this weekend. And again, on Wednesday's show, we don't go to the top of the heap for the biggest of the big games because we've got more of a week typically to get through them. This weekend on our channel, Ole Miss, Oklahoma is the Big Mac kickoff game Friday night. You saw Mac's big spread today. BYU and Iowa State all have that one on Saturday. TJ will have Texas A&M at LSU in a big SEC matchup. And then 5 for 500 continues on. Vegas Mac will have that on Saturday night, as per usual on Sundays. So what we're looking for in these games is we're looking for games spread out amongst the conferences that are going to have an impact in races as far as these conferences go, as we told you last night, literally 2 weeks away from the first rendition of the college football playoff rankings. So the first one that we found today will take you to the American, and a big matchup in the American as South Florida, a team that jumped on the scene at the beginning of the year. Great start to their season. A team that very likely would bump Notre Dame out of the postseason if it started today. South Florida is at Memphis, who comes in after losing last week, a game that nobody saw them losing to UAB. This is going to be a fun one, man, and I'm kind of interested to see this. You know, I mentioned Memphis a few weeks back, Mac, and I said, you know, the thing with Memphis is they've probably got the best 1-2-3 punch out there right now in quarterback Brendan Lewis. They've got running back Sutton Smith and Cortez Braham Jr., the wide receiver. Those three guys together makes this Memphis team a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And we know with USF and Alex Golish's squad, they've really only been kind of kicked in the teeth one time, and that was the game against Miami.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was very interested to see how South Florida did when they went to North Texas, because North Texas is one of those places where, you know, in a way, it's a tough place to play. It really is. And they went out and just put an absolute shellacking, 63 points on North Texas. And so because of that, and also because we don't know the status of Brendan Lewis, the quarterback of Memphis, I think this is a game that South Florida is going to be able to really control. Byron Brown, if you haven't seen this guy, not the best thrower of the football. He's an average thrower of the football, but he's an absolute great runner. He's a beast to bring down. I think this is a game that South Florida is going to be able to take care of. Their offensive line is very, very good. The Memphis defense has been inconsistent this year. Even though both these teams, both these teams, one good quality, they're really, really good in the red zone. So what that means, the over in this one, 65.5, I could see us blowing through that 65.5. But I think this is going to be a win for South Florida, and that puts them in a really, really good position the rest of the way through to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, an interesting note on that total, it's actually dropped down today to 62.5. So I'm glad that I waited, because I was, again, in agreement with you there. I was going to be all over that total. I love that it's down 2.5 points. Yeah. One more thing before we go to our next game here. That win for UAB last week was their first game without head coach Trent Dilfer, who was fired. The interim football coach for UAB, Alex Mortensen. He is the son of the late, great ESPN NFL insider, Chris Mortensen. So that was kind of cool to see that last week, and a huge win for UAB, a bad loss for Memphis, and we'll see how they rebound there. But yeah, I'm going over in that game. Our next one's going to take us to Williams-Brice Stadium, Columbia, South Carolina, noon 30 on the West Coast. The Alabama Crimson Tide and the South Carolina Gamecocks. The one-man band experiment for the Gamecocks has not worked very well this year. They come in at 3-4. And Alabama comes in back off of a gauntlet with wins against Georgia, Vandy, Mizzou, and Tennessee. South Carolina is not a team to look past. It's not a team to overlook, especially playing at Williams-Brice, and especially with LSU and Oklahoma on the horizon after the South Carolina game. I think this is a really tricky spot for the Tide. I know we're very high on them as per our rankings yesterday, but I don't like this number for Alabama. I think this is a weird spot here for Alabama. My lean is definitely towards South Carolina plus the 12.5 because of where the game's being played.
Yeah, I can see that. Listen, we were all dead and buried with Alabama after week one, and kudos to them for really turning it around. And they've done it in a variety of different ways. They went out and absolutely destroyed teams that they were supposed to destroy, and then, like you said, that gauntlet of teams that they played. They if you would have gone 3-1 in those 4 games, you would have said that's a good thing. But listen, they've been absolutely fantastic in this. I don't think anybody would say this is a bad statement, but I think Alabama's probably playing the best football of anybody in the country right now. They're that good. Ty Simpson's been absolutely great. Where has he been great? He's been great down the middle of the field. That's where he's been great. And what's one of the weak spots for South Carolina? They're linebackers. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what we want you guys to be looking for is can Ty Simpson still, especially deep, but work the middle of the field? If he can work the middle of the field, he's going to be good. Again, you don't want to let Lenora Sellers outside of the pocket. If he's inside that pocket, it makes it tough for him. He can't run. He's not as good a passer in there. It's going to be very interesting. Both these teams have a weak spot. Alabama and South
Road
Carolina.
games.
Yeah, road games. But I was going to say, for South Carolina, it's their offensive line. Their offensive line has been terrible. That's been part of the problem. Lenore Sellers hasn't had time to throw. But the weak spot for Alabama is their defensive line. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they actually get pressure on a team that doesn't have a really good offensive line? But I can see the number. I can see where you're scared about the number. I think Alabama wins this game. It may be closer than they probably like, but I just don't think there's any way that this Alabama team has a letdown, especially what's coming up in the next 2 weeks. They know what's at stake.
You don't have to pander to Herb anymore. He's already sent you stuff. And you can
I
pick against Alabama.
I know, but I'm waiting to break out the good stuff. This was great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I got the T-shirt. I'm just waiting for the appropriate time to bust that out. But listen, I mean, without a doubt, tell me who's playing better than Alabama right now. If we had
Oh,
if
I
I
don't
said
think anybody.
if I said okay, Commissioner Mike, you get to set
That
up.
has a great ring to it.
I know. You get to set up a national championship game Monday night. Here it is. What two teams would you put in that national? I know what mine would be. I could tell you right now. I'll give you mine, and I'll let you think about it for a second. I would put Indiana up against Alabama. Those I think are the two best teams playing right now. That would be my national championship game.
Oh man, we ain't gonna make a whole lot of friends in Columbus when I make this statement. I would say Alabama and Oregon, and that's because I picked
Oh,
Oregon at the beginning of the year in our college football preview. I would
I
love
know.
to see Bama and Oregon,
Yeah,
but obviously the immovable object and unstoppable force is Ohio State. But yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I went with Oregon at the beginning
Oh,
of the
I
year,
like
but
that.
yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I mean, when I look across our rankings, the three of us individually, you, TJ, and myself, I had Alabama. I moved them all the way up ahead of Indiana to number 2 this week. I mean, that's kind of where I
Hmm.
think Alabama's at and the cylinders that they're clicking on right now. So I'm going to take the 12.5, though, because of Alabama's road struggles. I don't think because they're on a roll that's an automatic that it's going to go. I just think the 12.5 is a little high. I can see a backdoor cover out of South Carolina towards the end of the game. I think it's a little too much for the spot on the schedule, but I also wouldn't be shocked if Alabama beat them 48-10. So, I mean, that's kind of there. So let's go to the Big Ten for our final college one here. We've got an interesting game that I don't think a lot of people are going to pay attention to up in Husky Stadium in Seattle as Illinois travels to the Pacific Northwest to take on a 5-2 Washington team. Equal records, equal conference records between these two. And I said it last week. If you have not gotten an opportunity to watch Damon Williams, the quarterback for Washington, play, you got to. This kid is unbelievable. He's dynamic. He really, really does throw the ball well for also being a threat to make plays happen outside of the pocket. Luke Altmaier has obviously played really well for Illinois. I think this is a tricky spot because that's a really tough building to play in for the Illini.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in Washington last week. I thought they would play a little bit better. I think Williams got a little frustrated in that game, especially in the second half. You could really see he looked like he was a little bit off his game. Washington, if they're going to win this game, they've got to find a way to establish the run in this game. That's what they do. Now, the thing about Illinois, they play a 5-man front. And so because they play that 5-man front, well, they're going to have to make sure that they don't let Williams out. I mean, because if they do, they don't have a whole lot in that secondary and with those linebackers. So it could be a big day for them. I really like the way Illinois played. Listen, they've lost to Ohio State and they've lost to Indiana. Those are their 2 losses. I mean, if you're going to lose to somebody, those are 2 pretty good teams to lose to. I actually think Illinois is going to win this game. I can see it being a close game, but I would actually lay the 4.5 points in this game, and take Illinois.
As dangerous as it is for us to agree
actually,
on.
they're getting the points, right?
Yeah, Washington's favored by 4.5.
Yeah, I say that's what, so I'll tell you, that's what I put plus. That's why the plus is there, Mac. Plus 4.5.
I'm going to actually lay the 4.5 here. I think Husky Stadium's going to be rocking. I think there's a lot of pent-up frustration and feelings in the Pacific Northwest, and a football game on the college side that can really do a lot of good for Washington as far as their place in the country, in the rankings, as far as their place within the Big Ten. I think that's going to be a big-time kind of playoff atmosphere.
And their coach has been mentioned in a few different openings as well.
Yeah, you can take Jed Fish and toss him around the market.
I'm just telling you.
Oh, you can tell me, and if his name ends up on a door inside the football complex at the University of Florida, I'm going to be wearing Florida State gear the very next day.
Oh,
so that's
I don't even.
I wouldn't drop myself to that. You know what? I will, because the Florida State gear will be so cheap at like a Goodwill or something right now. So yeah, I'm all over Florida State.
I don't even wish that. I don't even wish that to happen.
I think Jed Fish is in a really good spot up at Washington. I think it's a great place for him. The expectation is not national championships up there. It's to be competitive, which that football program is all the time. I'm sure they would love to win a buttload of championships, but that's not Ohio State. I think it's a great place for Jed Fish. Let's move over to the NFL, Mac, where I saw one of the weirdest damn things I have seen from one of the most plugged-in guys in the NFL, and I'm going to share it with everybody. Couple of injury notes and stuff like that to pay attention to. This comes from Tom Pelissero that Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield officially limited in practice today because of a knee injury. We obviously saw what happened to Mike Evans with the broken clavicle. Let's talk about nuts and bolts. No, what the hell is on the bottom of this? Backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater teeth did not practice. What the hell does that even mean?
Is that his nickname?
I mean,
I don't. The only thing I can think of is
I have no words.
He must have, like, a wisdom tooth, wisdom tooth out or something along that line.
Isn't Teddy Bridgewater like 40? You don't wait that long to get your wisdom teeth out.
Well, so wisdom comes to people sometime a little bit later in life.
It's definitely missed the station at the train. Let's go into the NFL. New York knocked off Cleveland in the Garden for an opening night win, and a battle of a bunch of guys that need to eat cheeseburgers has just gotten underway in Dallas with Cooper Flagg and the Mavericks. But I'm looking at Anthony Davis, Wemby, Cooper Flagg, Klay Thompson out. We've got a bunch of bean poles on the floor in Dallas right now, so definitely interested to watch this one.
I'm going to call this right now because it's his first game. I'm going to say that at some point in his career, Cooper Flagg plays for the Boston Celtics.
I could foresee that happening. I hope to hell for whoever is running the Mavericks at that time that doesn't happen because of what happened last year.
I'm just saying. I mean, he's from Maine. He loves that area. I got a feeling. I just think it's one of those things I think is going to happen. So there, I put that out there.
Cooper Flagg playing point guard tonight for the Mavs with the absence of Kyrie Irving. Another team I think you really got to keep your eye on in the NBA's competitive West this year I gave the Spurs out for over their 43.5 win total last night. This Dallas team is going to be a team that you really kind of have to watch all year because of the timing of when Kyrie Irving's coming back. D'Angelo Russell's there, but we know how effective that is. I think Dallas and the progression that Dallas takes over the season will be really, really interesting to see how the Mavs end up putting everything together there. NFL slate for this weekend. We've got four that we've got our eyeballs on. Now that we've covered teeth injuries, let's start in Denver as the Dallas Cowboys and MVP hopeful Dak Prescott head in to take on the 5-2 and leaders in the AFC West, the Denver Broncos. This is an afternoon kickoff from Denver. Denver favored by 3.5 points. This is going to be an interesting game here because, we talked about our trust issues last night, Mac, and I can't really peg exactly what it is, and it sounds crazy to say it about a 5-2 team like the Broncos, but I really, there's only been one damn time this season that I've watched the Broncos and I went, that's how they can win football games. I know that they can, score with anybody. I mean, hell, that we talked about the fourth quarter against the Giants was bonkers the other day. But the only time I've watched the Broncos this year, 2 times I should say, to be corrected. They dominated the Bengals, but in that game, I really saw their offense kind of fluid, and it looked like it was clicking, and then the defense was dominant like we expected. Right. It was the game in Philly. I was like, that's the Denver I thought I was going to see all year. Dallas, despite having the worst defense in the world, comes into this game very much alive in, I think, again, I don't think people are putting 2 and 2 together here. Jaden Daniels out on Monday night against the Chiefs for the Commanders. The Eagles, we've seen, despite the 5-2, there's another team that just doesn't look totally right. The East is wide open. This is a gettable game, I think, for the Cowboys.
Yeah, it is. And we know Denver, their strength is that they're one of the best pass rushing teams in the league. Mm-hmm. But we also know this. Or maybe we don't, but I'm going to tell you. Dak Prescott, statistically, the best passer in the NFL under pressure. Now, the thing about that, one weak spot for the Broncos is their secondary. Secondary a little questionable. So that'll be interesting. We all laughed at Dallas. We all kind of put them in the basement again before the season even came, and there they are ahead of Washington. Nipping at the Eagles' heels. Mm-hmm. Gosh, was Jerry right? Was he right?
I got all the assets to go out and improve this team right now. He does.
He does. Yeah. I mean, very interesting. So it feels like smoke and mirrors that they're doing it with, but the Dallas Cowboys have been competitive in almost every game that they played this year, which says a lot about, maybe it is the new coaching staff. Maybe they're making some amends. I think it's more, they've gotten really good games out of Lamb. Pickens has really played well. Having those two out there, I think you and I could throw to those two guys out there. I mean, they can both make some spectacular catches. I think this is a very interesting game. I always like Denver at home, so that's where I'm kind of going. I'm leaning towards the Broncos in this game.
Needless to say, if my mouse will work here, this is the most expensive ticket in the NFL this weekend.
Ooh, man,
low price of $295 for a 68-degree day in Denver, Colorado. I like the Broncos here too, or the Cowboys here too, because of the numbers at 3.5. I think it's going to be that kind of game. I hope to hell we get to see Brandon Aubrey trotted out from 77 yards in the thin air of Colorado. That would be fantastic. Billy V. That's right. Billy V is going to be in Denver this weekend. There you go. I said lowest I can find for you right now, Billy V. $295. So we're going to have to hit some parlays to take care of that shit. I love Denver. Great city. Great sports city. Hopefully they figure out their ass from the hole in the ground as far as the Rockies go. And you want to talk about a major sports city that has all 4 sports? If the Rockies could at least be San Francisco Giants 500 every year, it would be so much fun. It's a great city. It's fantastic. It's just not going to be a good day to be a Bronco fan because I think this game is going to be way closer than people think. Let's go on to our next one, which will take us to, God bless America, to Houston,
Houston.
Texas, to see the 49ers and likely McCorkle Jones under center again. Brock Purdy is practicing. The Niners have an interesting spot here in their schedule. The 5-2 record gives them a little bit of grace to decide when they want to bring him back. You know they want him back for the next game when they play the Rams. And they also have to play on turf in Houston and on the worst turf in the history of mankind at MetLife Stadium when they play the Giants. So I think the 5-2 is giving the 49ers the opportunity to be patient here. We just saw the Texans on Monday Night Football. Don't know if they're going to have Nico Collins. It's already a team that is without a lot of offensive weapons, terrible offensive line play. I was very critical of Clint Kubiak and how he called the Seahawks offense on Monday night. I also sent out a tweet during that game talking about how I thought it was the dumbest damn offensive play call on both sides that I'd ever seen here. So you got a Texans team that lacks weapons right now, has a bad offensive line. They have a really good defense that is keeping them in games. And you have a play caller that's not really thinking outside of the box. Enter on the other side of the field, Kyle Shanahan, who's like a mad scientist, but on the other side from him, D'Amico Ryans, who knows him well. I think this game's going to be really interesting. Houston, 2.5-point favorites as of right now.
That I don't understand that. I want to give an award. I'm going to give the award to Houston as the biggest disappointment of the season. I mean, without a doubt, this team has to be the biggest disappointment. This was supposed to be, the year that they broke through. Maybe they wouldn't have that first wild card spot on that Saturday.
TJ's assigned parking spot for them in the divisional round or in the wild card round.
I mean, this team is, for whatever reason, just put it in park, put it in reverse, and is going in the opposite direction. It's not a fun team to watch. It's not a good team right now. I think San Francisco has their way with them. I don't think this one's going to be close. But I'm not going to lie, I've been a little weary of San Francisco all year just because of their injuries. I know what they can do.
All they do is win, no matter what.
That's right. I mean, so I think San Francisco in this game, I'll be surprised if it's close. I really do. I haven't seen anything out of Houston that makes me believe that they're going to make this a close game.
I apologize for looking down there since the Knicks just took care of business for me and won money, and the Niners are still plus money underdogs in this game. I was actually making a bet while you were talking.
Good.
Another interesting part here for the 49ers in looking at this is if you project some things down, and we talked about at the beginning of the year, the Niners had on paper the easiest schedule because they were playing a last place schedule and the way it matched up with the Southern divisions. Nobody thought this game, December 22nd, was going to mean a damn thing. Niners at Colts on Monday Night Football. That is the final game for the 49ers against the South Division, where they already have one loss, the loss to the Jaguars. So, everything tells me, based on what I've seen, that it's a no-doubter to me to take the 49ers. I don't want the points. Just give them to me on the money line here because Kyle Shanahan is putting out a Coach of the Year performance right now. And if you don't think he is, already. I know Shane Steichen's doing a great job. I'm not throwing any shade. Obviously, he'll be in the conversation. But I think if you really look at this, I think you got to give Kyle Shanahan some damn serious consideration for what they've been dealing with and what they've been able to put together. Obviously, you take Daniel Jones and you make him the best quarterback in the AFC on at least on appearance right now. Shane Steichen's very much in the conversation, but I think this is a Niner money line play for me. I'm more concerned about the Niners for two reasons in their next game because A, it's on that shitty turf at MetLife because those two cheap ass ownership groups in New York won't put grass on the field. That's a different story for a different day. I'm more worried about the Giants, the Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo Giants on the road than I am about the Texans.
No, I hear you. Yeah, I mean the Giants, like we said, they're going to be a thorn for everybody the whole rest of the way. So yeah, without a doubt. But like this one, as far as this one goes, Mike, I can't see this one being close. I really think San Francisco is going to take this one.
I think it's going to be a drubbing too. Let's go to our next one. Try and move through these as quick as we can here. Charlotte, North Carolina, we're the 4-3, 3-0 at home. Panthers host the Buffalo Bills, coming in at 4-2, 1-1 on the road are the Bills. I think this game is in everybody's head. It just seems like Buffalo wipes the field with Carolina. I'm telling you, man, this Carolina team is really kind of starting to figure some stuff out here. Do I think they're a better team than Buffalo? No. But Buffalo can't stop the run, and Rico Dowdle's been running all over everybody, including the Cowboys, who he told he was going to run all over.
I found an interesting stat about the Buffalo Bills. When do the Buffalo Bills, there's two times in the game where the Buffalo Bills have the greatest success. Do you know when those two times are?
I've seen this. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I've seen it.
It's at the beginning of the game, their first drive, and
right.
their first drive of the second half. Here's the reason why. Those are their scripted plays. Mm-hmm. They have their 10 or 15 plays that are scripted, meaning this is what we're going to run. These 15 plays kind of basically in this order when they start the game. Also in the second half, these are the plays that we're going to run to start, our first possession in the second half. Thought that was very interesting that those are the two times that they've been when their offense is the most successful. But listen, wait, Mike, I'm gotta give credit where credit is due. You said this weeks ago. What can't the Buffalo Bills do? Stop the run. Why can't they stop the run? They have trouble in their linebacking position. What can Carolina do? They can run the ball. Carolina's coming in W3. Bills coming in 2L. Boy, oh boy, can Carolina win this? With Andy Dalton, can they win this game? Yeah, they can. Will they? No, Buffalo's going to win this game.
Wow. So that's your best Pat McAfee impersonation there. You set it up nice. The Red Rocket, Red Rifle, whatever you want to call him, 4-2 against the Bills in his career. I am taking the 7.5 points with the Panthers here. I'm also going to take the Panthers for the outright win. I think the Bills are going to go through a little bit of a, hey, oh yeah, we were all high on the Bills and, maybe they just don't have it together. Bills play the Packers next. Mm-hmm. Or no, sorry. I was reading the Panthers schedule there. Clicked on the wrong logo. The Bills, when you look at the shape of their schedule, who do they play next? This is what I meant to say. Kansas City. I think this is not a look-ahead spot for Buffalo because they're coming in off of a bye. But they have looked really bad the last two times we saw. Not making the key plays, not doing what we expect out of the Bills. I can see the Bills figuring stuff out, as crazy as this sounds, a week from now against Kansas City, more than I can see them figuring out stuff against Carolina on the road here, despite coming in off the bye. I said what I said. I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo beat them. I just think this is a tricky spot for the Bills, and I don't like what I see right now. Don't shoot me, I'm the messenger. Yeah. Final one, Sunday Night Football. As we talked about it last night, don't overblow this game into anything more than it is. It is Aaron Rodgers at home as a Steelers quarterback against the Packers in Pittsburgh. It's not as big of a story as people want it to be made out to be. What is a big story after we saw the Los Angeles Bananas of SoFi Stadium in that shit uniform combination, it will be the NFL's first all-yellow helmet game since the same matchup of the Steelers and Packers in 1954.
And they're going to be wearing the uniforms that Aaron Rodgers wore his rookie year in the NFL.
I don't like what I'm seeing out of the Packers either, dude. And coming into this game against a Steelers team that I think very much because of the veteran presence that they have on their team. I know you have concerns about their defense, but I would say you don't need to be concerned with the defense because you got Jordan Love on the other side who still hasn't proven a damn thing to me. Josh Jacobs, is more of the focal point, I think, if you're the Steelers here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the Steelers in that division, it is wide open for the taking for them. You know Rodgers wants to beat his old team. You know
Mm-hmm.
that. But it's not like Aaron's coming back to Green Bay like it's already being spun by everybody. I love the Steelers here. Why? Because they're home dogs. And
Uh,
I think that is absolutely disrespectful to what the Steelers have put together this year, especially off of seeing what the Packers have done. They had to come from behind against the Cardinals? Come on.
yeah, I mean, the Steelers really have played pretty good. I mean, giving Aaron Rodgers a lot of heat, but listen, he's actually done a really good job. I mean, of all the places and things that the Steelers could have done at quarterback, it absolutely was the right call. I don't want to give away too much because I've got the video for that. But here's what I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you. Here's a good one. I'll throw this one out. I mentioned it in there, but Mike Tomlin, after a loss on Thursday Night Football, he is 7-2. How about that?
Interesting.
How about that?
Yeah,
After a Thursday night loss.
I'm playing a dangerous game this weekend. I've already kind of tipped my hand. Obviously, I'll have some Thursday night picks, the BYU Iowa State game on Saturday, and then the Sunday spread. I'm playing a very dangerous game this weekend that usually doesn't work out well for people like me. Between college football and the NFL this weekend, call me freaking crazy. But I see a lot of very, very good dogs. And in my head, I'm playing the game of what does Vegas actually know here? We just talked about them. The Steelers, the 49ers, the Panthers, BYU. There's, you can follow a theme. Maybe I'm tipping my hand to where I'm going to go tomorrow night with the Chargers and the Vikings. I think there's a lot of live dogs this weekend, man, and we could see one hell of a weekend full of barking here, including with the Blue Jays underdogs on Friday night in game one against the Dodgers. There's a lot of teams that are not favored, whether it be spot, whether it be injury, whether it be travel, like whatever the hell the story is. I see a lot of spots where there's a lot of live dogs. And I know one of our great fans and followers out there, Billy V, loves to bet underdogs. I'm telling you, Billy, I think this might be the weekend to just go all weekend long. Like I don't see why the Packers should be favored in Pittsburgh over the Steelers. Tell me the Packers are that much better than the Steelers? I don't think so.
No, I mean, if that game was played on a neutral field, that would be a pick'em game. I mean, for the most part. I mean, I would think. I
Maybe
mean,
it'll get
but
played on a neutral field in Santa Clara.
I don't know about that. Well, we'll see. But I think it goes back to the conversation that we had. Um, we're waiting for teams to stand out. And we haven't had that, and I think that's why you're looking at these dogs and going, this team is just as good as this team, and I think that's a lot of it. I just think we haven't really got the separation, especially in college. I think we're starting to get that separation a little bit. But even then, there's still a lot to be determined in these next couple weeks. But in the NFL, I don't think we've got that separation yet. I mean, like, play that game again. If you told me who would be my Super Bowl right now, I don't really know. I would have too many teams in the hat to pick from.
I told you who the Super Bowl was going to be at the beginning of the year. You know who it's going to be.
I know.
San Francisco and Buffalo. Speaking of championship predictions before we get out of here. Oh, I know what you're watching right now. NBA. I will give you a guess. And I picked the Eastern Conference winner and the Western Conference winner because I was able to put them on the same bet ticket together. So total futures play.
Gotcha.
I will give you two guesses as to who my championship matchup is in the NBA 8 months from now when the championship series takes place, the NBA Finals.
I know you picked Golden State, so I'll take that.
Low
Um,
hanging fruit.
yeah. Well, hey, listen, you gotta take one step before
I
you
think
can take
healthy
two.
there. I think healthy
No.
there is as good as it gets in the West. I do. It's a big if though.
Um,
Healthy
I'll
and
go.
unsuspended since Draymond got teed up on the bench last night. For some
Oh
bullshit,
gosh.
I will say, but still.
In the East, gosh darn it. I don't know. Orlando.
Oh God, no.
I don't
I
know. I
don't.
don't
The
know.
one team in the East that I don't get the hype behind is Orlando. I get that the East is wide open, but it's not
Toronto.
wide open enough for Mickey
How,
Mouse's Disney World team to get there.
how about this? How about Toronto?
No,
All right.
we owe them one, but no.
I know.
I just
Chicago?
said we. See what I'm doing tonight?
Yeah.
It's
I
the
don't know.
Knicks and the
Yeah.
Warriors.
Oh, the Knicks. Yeah, I'm not sold
I'm
on the
going
Knicks.
by the Mike Brown first year theory there. So
Okay. All right.
got a lot of stuff finishing up in the NBA. Shout out Chris Middleton for getting me over. I said it yesterday. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking the NBA betting market that I'm going to stay in all year is points, rebounds, and assists. Shout
I
out
like
Chris
it.
Middleton for getting over the 22.5 tonight for the hapless Washington Wizards, who are only down 16 to the Bucks. So plenty of stuff there. Any final words from you on this hump day, Mac, before we get up on out of here and load up early for a massive week and weekend?
This gonna be, I think, my new Wednesday thing. We've been talking about the tickets. How about this for $9? For $9, you could go watch Stanford play at Miami. $9.
Man, you got to up that. They just got fined $50,000 last week. Is that game in
It
Palo Alto?
no, it's in Miami.
Oh
Not
God.
$9. Do you know what else you could do with all the money you save from not having to spend a lot of money on the ticket?
I thought you were going to ask me what I could do in Miami with $9. I don't know if that's appropriate for this show.
But how about that? $9. That's a pretty good deal. I was looking, there's a couple other ones that are a little bit lower, but those aren't games we really would want to go see. Anyway, there's a couple. Well, here I'll go even lower. I'll give you one more. How about this one? You could for $6 go see Rutgers play at Purdue. $6.
They should pay me $6 to watch those two shitty teams play. $6, that's a ripoff.
Yeah, or you could start your Friday night for $6 as well, watching Cal take on Virginia Tech.
Hold on, let me flip to my Friday bet card. Cal plus 4.5.
Yeah, there you
No,
go.
no, please.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
All
So
right.
for everybody behind the scenes, for my guy Vegas Mac, for TJ, who'll be back with us next week, we will talk to you next Tuesday at 5:30. But follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because Snapchat sucks and we're not 12. You know the drill. Thanks for watching.